What'd you say? What's wrong? What's wrong,
I
dear?
always have to put
Oh,
my
this is what I
foot
wanted to
around your leg.
adjust. You always got to play footsies. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. So my chair doesn't spin.
Yeah. So you're. Oh, that's. I always thought it was because you loved me, but it's
Mm.
just to stop your chair from spinning. I get it
It's
now.
that too.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. It's good to have y'all on the stream. We're streaming from our backup channel. We're still in timeout. We have been not good global citizens, so we're trying to re-educate ourselves. So we're working on that. And so we're streaming from Faith channel.
Yep.
We are streaming from our backup channel, and we are streaming from Rumble. So we want to welcome all of our audiences. Also, the Epoch Times article that I've been warning y'all about should be coming out soon. So that's kind of neat. I thought it was pretty good. I hope it's very motivating. I hope it motivates somebody.
Epoch Times article
About us.
about our family.
About our family and the last 9 or 10 or so years. So that was pretty neat. So
pretty fun. Do you
yep,
have to do
fun
a shameless
stuff.
plug before we get started here?
What's your shameless plug, Mother?
Go head over to TheTexasBoys.com. That's our little farm shop. If you haven't already, go check it out. There's honey over there, little specialty honeys, all the way up to big gallon size honeys, and they are really good prices, so you can stock up on some honey for your pantry. Also, our whole line of coffee is over there, complete with the lion's mane coffee and CBD coffee, locally grown here. And there's lots of other stuff as well. So go get something for yourself. And in doing so, you will be supporting our family business here.
Yeah, and this Deep Well project, hopefully, maybe soon, very soon. So,
Yes.
All right, y'all. So we wanted to revisit the Shiny Happy People documentary one last time. We did a rather extensive overview of our experience with different encounters that we've had over an extensive period of time. And I did allude to how the entire documentary was basically a Christian bash, and it was like a labeling and a badging and the supposed, like the air quotes pastor guy that said homeschooling was basically created so that white people didn't have to send their oh, I got to freeze. Okay, I don't know if I'm frozen. So that white people didn't have to send their kids to school with kids of other colors,
Right.
kind of thing.
There's,
like, and we come from the Northeast, right? And we homeschooled there. And there's an enormous diverse group of people that homeschool. And now post whatever you can actually say anymore. I don't know. Post thing, post New World, yeah, real funny. That's a very, they kind of forgot like what happened in the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, there's always a diversity in homeschooling. And I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, now you had this massive insurgence into homeschooling, and it had absolutely nothing to do with Christianity. It had nothing to do, it just had to do with a lot of other things, and it certainly didn't have to do anything to do with the color people are. That's for sure. So that's kind of
never encountered that in
anecdotal.
any homeschool groups or anything.
But a very good friend of mine, Chuck, sent me a really well-written article that hit a lot of points of what I saw. I'm not necessarily as familiar with the author, but I really wanted to review this because I thought it hit a lot of really good points, and it gave some additional background information on some of the characters in the documentary, which is very important and telling to how the whole thing is like this smear campaign. And also in the previous video we did, we actually posted, because in the Shiny Happy People documentary, I forget. I get there's 21 of them. I get them mixed up. But there's Jill.
You're talking about Ginger?
Yeah, I'm talking about Ginger. So Ginger and her husband did a really good 2 or 3 part interview with Allie Beth Stuckey.
Yes, very, very good. And I think
Excellent.
I linked both of her videos with Allie Beth Stuckey. And the second one, her husband is on the interview too. Ginger used to be Duggar. And they're very good.
Volvo, I think is her last name.
Yes.
But these interviews are excellent, and they're and they're incredibly even-handed and well done, and they're certainly not the Shiny Happy People thing is super edited to meet its narrative. And unfortunately, Jill and her husband and that's the other thing. I don't want to get ahead of the article. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to jump into the article. We're going to read through this. We're going to comment on it as we go, like we do. This is what we do, y'all.
Yeah.
So
and I'm just going to say again, for those of you who didn't watch our part 1 and 2 of, right? We did 1 and 2
yes.
of our ATI commentary and experiences and all that. You can go back and watch that for just some reference from where we're coming from. And then also, I just wanted to say that I know Spencer Smith had mentioned, and we're not of like-minded circles with Spencer Smith, but he did point out, he did an interview with his wife on his show, which she's not usually on the show. And he said, they were aiming at ATI in this exposure video that, Amazon promoted, but every Christian got caught in the crosshairs.
Well, that's what this article
Right.
is breaking down. That's why I wanted to cover it, because I think far more than whatever the stupid drama, TB drama, and they love all this trash. And then especially if it's some air quotes Christian, it makes it even better. Because look at these stupid Christians and these Christian fundamentalists. They're trying to change, this is a political movement and all this nonsense. You know what I mean? Just remember, voting matters. Okay. And I won't get into that. I know I don't want to crack too many paradigms for people.
Well,
but
we got to stay on the channel.
Yeah.
Don't get me kicked off the channel.
No, you can say that now.
No, we learned lots of things.
Well, supposedly you can say that
now.
But okay, I'm going to jump into the article. So here we go.
Let's stick to the
But supposedly you can say that now, but I don't know. So maybe we just got banned again, but we'll find out in the near future.
Some people can say something
after the fact. Yeah, we don't get to pivot like some channels.
But not all the people can say all the things.
Right. Okay, so this is from truthscript.com. Shiny Happy People, a not so thinly veiled attack on conservative Christians. So this is written by David Harris. Like I said, not super up to speed on who David Harris is. This is I very much agree with everything that's written here, and I think it's well done. And there's some histrionics here that I think is really good. So I wanted to share this because this hits the nail on the head. At the age of 17, while sitting in a doctor's office, I read the book Do Hard Things by Alex and Brett Harris. It was sort of revolutionary battle cry for what has been called the Joshua generation of millennial Christian homeschoolers. So this Joshua generation was referenced in the 4th part of the series. The basic premise of the book was broader than applying just to homeschoolers, that premise being that the years of adolescence needed to be reclaimed as the launch pad of life. And this was to be done by rebelling against low expectations. Do Hard Things affected me profoundly. I purchased the book from many friends and tried to start study groups. I was deeply inspired to capitalize on early adulthood and become very animated about trying to take risks, learn skills, educate myself, and accomplish big things for the glory of God. I didn't really hear or see much from either of the Harris brothers past Do Hard Things. They ran a conference circuit for a while. but their brother Josh definitely stole the limelight when he publicly deconstructed from roughly 2017 to 2020. So when I saw Alex on the final episode of Shiny Happy People, to say I was taken aback would be an understatement. However, the fact that I had made it to the 4th episode of this series was an example of doing hard things in and of itself. So yeah, Josh Harris has been one of the thousands of fundamental Christians that have realized their faith in God was a scam, and they're now all humanists, and they now just, care about their own personal happiness, and they're so much happier now. And and this goes into y'all, this goes into the absolute heart of your systematic theology, the absolute essence and being of what being a new creature is and what conversion is, and whether or not you can walk away. When God said, they said unto me, Lord, Lord, and he said, I never knew you. So we won't have to go down that theological trail tonight. We probably will multiple times in future dates and all that good stuff. But obviously all these postmodern deconstructed Christians, they're a dime a dozen, just like all the CCM, Sado, Rolling Stone worshipers that, sang for the glory of God, and now they just want to,
I'm pretty sure you can't say that word either.
Be PDF files and all that other stuff. But
you got a lot of retraining to do, TD. He's not censored. He's not self-censored enough yet.
Here are what I hope are some useful thoughts on the series. The disclaimer section. I don't have any particular feelings about the Duggars. I never had any interest in their show, never watched it. I had never heard of Bill Gothard until seeing Shiny Happy People.
Wow.
I don't care for much of Duggar's theology, and I definitely empathize with those who fell victim to the errant parts of it. If I had a nickel for every time a prominent celebrity level evangelical self-destructed or deconstructed, I would be able to quit my day job and write full time. So I was not rocked or surprised by anything in Shiny Happy People. Basically, I have no emotional attachment to the Duggars, but I sympathize with those who do because I did have an attachment to the Harris brothers. So my disappointment in their individual trajectories has been much stronger. This is a very good point. A note on the flow. First, a few notes on the quality of the series. I didn't find SHP to be all that well edited. It jumps around awkwardly, leaves major questions unanswered, and very obviously cuts very important information out of the interview with the people closest to the Duggar situation. The best example of poor editing is when Jill Duggar is explaining that they never received any monetary compensation for their part in 19 and counting. Just as she seems to be getting to the crucial part of the story, the episode suddenly cuts back to Bill Gothard, and we really never get any closure on what happens. And that is so true. Also, the best friends of Jim Bob and Michelle, that was super heavily edited, and those people never really got to say whatever they were trying to say. And I thought that was incredibly problematic, especially since I believe that those folks are still obviously professing Christians. Another issue is that the series doesn't know if it's about Bill Gothard, the Duggar family, or radical homeschooling families that are friends with Republican politicians. Some of the most important points lack sufficient evidence. For example, one of the key charges against Bill Gothard is that he hears directly from God, but the filmmakers couldn't seem to find any footage of him saying anything, even remotely articulating this, which is not at all to say that it wasn't true. It seems like it probably was. It's just sloppy filmmaking. The real target. I probably never would have watched Shiny Happy People, but I saw a lot of interest in the evangelical community and a degree of shock about Bill Gothard's influence and teachings. What really got me to sit down and watch all 4 episodes was the end of Amazon's Prime's description of the series. As details of the family and their scandals unfold, we realize they're part of an insidious, much larger threat already in motion, with democracy itself in peril.
Whoa.
That's what happened to democracy. It was the Duggars and Gothard.
Well, no.
Maniacal laugh
think
inserted here.
I think it's not the Duggars and Gothard. It's conservative Christianity that is threatening their ideals of democracy. That's already in motion. So they're saying conservative Christianity. Yeah.
It's very clear that the series wasn't merely about exposing the corruption within a large family from Arkansas, but about extending that corruption to a much wider group of people that threaten democracy. Who are these threats? Well, Christians, I'm here to tell you, it's you.
There you go.
You're the threat. What is the proof of this? Documentary filmmaking is powerful. And and just so y'all know, and we love watching documentaries, but what you learn from Edward Bernays and all this stuff, that there's an enormous amount of revisionist history in air quote documentaries, and that just like all of these movies that are based on true events, it's the same thing.
Yeah, you have to be very
careful. Much of it is propaganda.
Yeah.
So you got it,
especially historical stuff. You have to be really careful,
especially 90% of anything Civil War,
and a lot of Christian historical stuff. I mean, when it comes to different homeschool curriculum and all kinds of stuff like that, like Christian history gets revised.
Yeah, and exclusive Baptist history. There's some insane amount of revisionism, even though there's an inordinate amount of stuff by many different writers that is voluminous, like J.T. Christian and others. Documentary filmmaking is powerful in this way. The producers of SHP were actually quite genius in that they mix in enough regular conservative Christian ideas, doctrines, and practices with the problematic elements of the Duggars and Gothard. The series is essentially an extended straw man argument. It basically goes like this: Duggars are corrupt and hold dangerous ideas. They got the dangerous ideas from Bill Gothard, who's a cult leader. The dangerous ideas are having large families, going to the Creation Museum, homeschooling, spanking your children, men-led families, and being involved in Republican politics.
Right, which all are not necessarily problematic. that has nothing to do with the dangers of ATI.
Yeah, not only are most of them not problematic, a lot of them are very good, and things that you should do, and to just lump them all together, it's very satanic. But that's why the most profound responses within the movie were from people with multicolored hair that were unfortunately inordinately overweight. They cared nothing for their appearance or themselves, and it was it's probably Bill Gothard's fault, or whatever. So they were literally antithetical to any concept of like personal responsibility, moving forward and past, hey, look, everybody has a story, right? Everybody has had incredibly bad stuff happen. Everybody that I know that we could tell a lot of stories and had a lot of bad, tragic things happen. I know of a family that just lost like a 2-year-old child out of the blue, nobody, unexplainable. Just prior to that, David the Good's brother, 20-month-old, that is, that is tragic and devastating. And we all have stories. And I keep that in mind when I'm talking to people, man. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got stuff. Everybody's dealing with stuff, and it's really, and I shoot it straight. And this is the Beauty and the Beast podcast. She's the beauty, I'm the beast. But it is pathetic when you see these like people that they obviously abuse themselves, and then they look like that, and they look like a freak and everything else. And I know, yeah, that's me, and I'm judgmental, but it's true. And and then this is this big wah, wah. Oh, and the reason I'm big and fat and have pink hair is because Bill Gothard or whatever. It's very pathetic in my opinion. But but they got stuff, they got baggage too. But the proof that their ideas are dangerous is all the abuse that surrounds them. Gothard's improprieties, Joshua's abuse, and sexual deviancy. So I thought this is some really information about the filmmakers and the cast, which context is king, right? There is an epidemic with sex addiction and patriarchy in this country that we don't talk openly enough about. So says Willoughby Nassan, one of the directors of SHP. Her most well-known previous project is 2018's Rest in Power, the Trayvon Martin story. Oh, yeah, this is just a beacon of journalism and postmodern truth and postmodern history. Good old Trayvon Martin, just jogging out the poster boy for the loony left. Even though he was a beacon of character and morality, and he was just a hardworking kid, along with her co-director, Olivia Christ, Nassan had a fairly limited scope of interviews for the project. Obviously, Jill Duggar sat down to talk, but so did her cousin, Amy Duggar, along with some family friends of the Duggars. There are then a number of victims of Gothard, which makes sense for the overall point of the series. However, there are two interviews that make the agenda very clear. One is Kristen Kobes Dumez, the progressive professor from Calvin College and the author of Jesus. Now, I just saw some postmodern idiot posting this book on Twitter. So she is the author of Jesus and John Wayne, How White Evangelicals Corrupted a Faith and Fractured a Nation. Yeah, no further comment needed. Yeah, it's the whiteys, and I'm sure she's white, but her white guilt is in the right place, and she makes up for her white guilt by overeating, I'm sure too. The other, Jen Supfin, a pink-haired YouTuber who is currently making her living mocking and ridiculing Christians while she does her makeup. Unfortunately, the makeup doesn't help. Her expertise was only explained as far as she likes to voice her disdain on her weekly show, Fundy Fridays. And, in the grand label of fundies, I'm no fan of fundies myself, but that's low-hanging fruit. That's easy pickings. But it's notable that Paul and Morgan Olagies, two Christian Zoomer TikTok creators included in the series in the final episode, have publicly voiced since the series was released that they were lied to by the producers of SHP. The energetic couple appears very briefly, only used as an example of how dangerous Christian fundamentalism is being articulated in the next generation through TikTok and Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Because that's the thing. What's really wrong is all of these Christians have a platform, and they would have absolutely no influence if they didn't have social media as a platform. Meanwhile, Instagram literally gets busted as a PDF file ring with an open network, openly busted. But the real problem with Instagram are conservative Christians that are trying to make you vote Republican. Yeah, it's that funny. The final episode, the fourth installment of SHP, is essentially and apologetic for deconstruction. After somewhat sloppily building a narrative of the dangers of Christian fundamentalism, for example, showing the Duggar family visiting the Creation Museum, interspersed with interviews of deconstructed Christians talking about how they were abused because they didn't get a real education. Yeah, for real. Like they didn't go to a government school and learn the right way about the Civil War and about, the three branches of government
Right.
and how they like.
That being said, the wisdom booklets do not give you a full education.
No, they're mocking creation, and they mock the fact that government education is proper and would have done such a better job.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch the documentary.
Yeah,
So
it's hideous and it's
yeah.
retarded. I mean, it's just not, it's just like the whole thing, the reason it's the reason they give you for why people homeschool. It's a dystopian dumpster fire. But
you were there, the final episode.
the final episode ties in Gothard's cult to conservative Christians at large. We see plenty of footage of Mike Huckabee, who I despise, him and his daughter, who is now the governor of Arkansas. Like, please go be a woman and raise your family and care about your children and your grandchildren. And please get out of politics and actually act like a lady. It's terrible. And we even get to see a little Donald Trump as well. Get to see the Donald talk about China. The association is clear. Corrupt, abusive, conservative Christians are the driving force behind the greatest threat: global domination by the Republican Party. The other wing of the foul bird that both approved of the debt ceiling and sold us up the river. And
of course, what would be Amazon promoting? Of course, they're gonna do a documentary and promote that. I mean, they didn't do the documentary, but Amazon is going to promote this because that's their war that they're fighting anyway right now.
They hate Western society, capitalism, white people, Christianity. And as ridiculous as it might sound, homeschoolers from Northwest Arkansas will be the vehicle for total global control. Dude, people say that Alex Jones is like tinfoil hat. Like, this is some super libtard tinfoil hat stuff. Okay, what can we learn from shiny, happy people? One can hardly blame the other Duggars for not talking to Amazon. And yeah, I'm very surprised that Jill would let them set her up like that. So that kind of says a lot to me. I mean,
I think you're kind of naive if you think that you can sit down and not be edited like that.
Ginger Duggar has become vocal about the problematic elements of Gothard's teaching, but has chosen to do so with friendly parties, Allie Beth Stuckey, and also Apologia Studios, etc. I guess she's done several interviews. It's impossible to know where anyone who is involved with SHP stands with Christ, because the series is extremely careful to make sure that no gospel, grace, mercy, or hope ever comes through. The world of, because they're all terrible concepts. You wouldn't want to accidentally say anything that's true. The world of conservative Christianity is painted as a dark, miserable, abusive place, in contrast to the informed, relevant, authentic world of deconstruction. Though the deconstructed all seem miserable, and they look miserable. They look terrible, and they don't look happy. Like, even, especially the cousin, she looks terrible, and her husband, they looked terrible. It's horrible. And I'm like, man, but whatever, it's probable that Jill and Derek Dillard have plenty to say about their commitment to Christ, and that the dysfunctional parts of the upbringing haven't shipwrecked their faith. They seem to have used SHP to launch their book, where their perspectives are more comprehensive. For conservative Christians, Jill did mention that's why she got her nose ring. And I thought that was insane. That was part of
So they used that
to launch their
push
book.
people towards their
They'll
book.
probably make a lot of money on that
Okay.
book. Yeah.
So that makes sense then.
Yeah.
They were just like, we know they're going to chop this up to bits.
But at least we get a gigantic commercial for our book, and this will
yes.
get millions of views.
People who are really interested.
That's what you called SOP. But anyway.
Well, people who are really interested are going to go look for the books and.
Yeah, but if you say that you're a Christian and you're willing to provide this to your absolute enemy for the sake of pimping your book, that's kind of being a sellout, in my opinion.
Well,
but hey, people think because I'm on YouTube,
we're on YouTube,
I'm a sellout. So there you go. For conservative Christians, it's probably prudent to mentally replace the Duggars, Gothard, and abusive fundamentalism with you and your local church. Well, that is if you go to a local church, which is a good idea. Should you watch Shiny Happy People? As is clear, that's what's being not so covertly targeted.
Right. But we're targeted every single day. I don't know that a person who goes to a conservative church would watch that and be like, my church is all messed up. Like, if that's, you have to be very shallow to watch one documentary and get shaken up.
Unfortunately, I won't comment. But
Okay.
Paul and Morgan Ogilvie, however you say their name, properly understood this and have articulated it well. It remains to be seen if the Duggars that still profess Christ and appeared in the series do. Alex Harris clearly does not, and only stands to gain from throwing conservative Christians under the bus. SHP should be a wake-up call for Christians who are committed to living biblically, teaching truth to their children, and trying to follow God's design for their lives, families, communities, and nations. Not only will these things be increasingly unpopular, but it's getting very difficult for mainstream media to veil their hatred and intolerance for Christian living while celebrating things that would probably make the Canaanites blush. While this is to be expected, it should also be noted that the source of the disdain will increasingly come from those who either formally or currently claim to be Christians. And that is absolutely true and completely profound. And the Pharisees killed Christ. Okay. The religious ruling elite, the religious oligarchy, and, the Sanhedrin was comprised. Well, let me finish reading this. Furthermore, as long as conservative Christians are accused of world domination, why not oblige the accusers? Why not continue the legacy of do hard things by living for Christ, following his precepts, and continuing being salt and lights in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation? So to David Harris, I say, hear, very well written. I can't say that I could possibly agree with this article any more than I do. He hit all the happy high points. He added some dimensional perspective to some of these useful idiots that are interviewed. But yeah, I do want to point this out. The religious oligarchy, right? So you had the Pharisees and you had the Sadducees. Now here's the thing. The Pharisees were the guys that made up all the rules and added all the rules. And they said, do as I say and not as I do. And they would compass sea and land to make a convert or twofold child of hell, right? As long as they said the name of God the right way, or didn't say the name of God, or maybe took the word God and took the O out and put a hyphen in the middle and wore blue ribbons around their waist and had the right phylacteries, and maybe they, enlarged the hem of their garments and made the blue so it was visible, or wore bigger boxes on their foreheads or on their wrists or whatever, right? So those were those guys. And they hated the fact that Christ said he was God, and that's why they wanted to kill him. Then you have the Sadducees. Now, the Sadducees were completely carnal. They didn't believe in an afterlife. They didn't believe that there was a resurrection from the dead, right?
Mhm.
So they were completely and totally temporal.
Mhm.
They didn't even believe in a spiritual life, right? And but you had the Sadducees approach Christ and they said, "Master, hey, a brother had a wife. The law says that if she doesn't have any offspring or seed, it goes to the next brother down the line. Well, all 7 brothers married this wife. There's no seed. Well, at the resurrection, whose wife is she? They they didn't believe that there was a resurrection. They're asking him a question
Mhm.
that they don't even believe for the sake of manipulation
Mhm.
and whatnot. And if Christ didn't say he was God, they would have never crucified him. So he obviously said he was God. And Christ said, why did David say, uh, the Lord saying to my Lord? I'm not going to get into the Trinity thing.
Mhm.
Okay. It's been,
We can do a different
we can do
topic.
another Trinity stream, but yeah, I'm not getting into it on this one.
Mhm.
But the political apparatus was the religious oligarchy.
Mhm.
So you had the Pharisees, right?
Mhm.
And you had the Sadducees. And what did they say? We have no king but Caesar, right? These religious people, we serve God and we follow all the rules and we do all the stuff and we eat all the right foods and we don't eat any of the wrong foods and we do all the holy days the way you're supposed to do them at the right places and times and spots, and we do the sacrifices and all that stuff, right? But we have no king but Caesar.
Mhm.
They spit in God's face. And what God told them, well, this blood's going to be on you and your generation, right? And that's why this NATO fake quasi nation state of AKA supposed Israel exists today is just another political machination that Caesar and the Catholic Church and the Jesuits and Al have all reconstructed this, our ally that we send millions of dollars a week to, that has nuclear arms and all this stuff.
Mhm.
But what were you going to say, dear? You act like you're just waiting to say
Well, I
something.
was just going to say, to get back to the article, was that, Ginger said in her last interview that she did with that Allie Beth, she said that most people have been like, not people within not Christian people, but most people from a secular perspective have been highly disappointed in her book that she just came out with, because and she's selling it on Amazon, but she said most people in the secular world have been very disappointed because they wanted her to renounce Christianity. They wanted her to, like, expose the cult that she had been raised in, but then, like, walk away from her faith altogether and just renounce Christianity. And she's not, like, that's not what's happening. She's still very strong in her faith, even stronger.
Right, exactly. Which is what
More, yeah, she understands truth
that's
now.
what the stuff, when if you are a born again child of God and life happens and challenges happen, you know what it does? It galvanizes you.
Mhm.
One thing it does is it reveals to you, right? Like, okay, so this tragedy happens, right? Well, if this tragedy is from God, it's going to drive me closer to God.
Mhm.
And what God wants us to know is I am sufficient.
Mhm.
You're all sufficient. More sufficient than your spouse, than your children, than your job, your house, all of your necessities,
Mhm.
right? Your Maslow hierarchy of needs, all these
Mhm.
things, right? I am more than all of that.
Mhm.
So,
I think you could be temporarily shipwrecked, but I don't think that if you're the Lord's, He's going to leave you shipwrecked. You're going to, at some point, He's going to gather you back up, all the bits and pieces, and put you back on that straight and narrow path, because you're His. and he's yours, and that's what's going to happen. That's why I say I don't think that somebody who is honestly born again is going to watch that documentary and like fall off the boat. Not permanently, at least.
Well, no,
You
nobody,
know?
nobody that's a Christian, anybody that watches that is going to see through the propaganda.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that was so
Blatant.
blazingly
Yeah.
apparent.
Yeah, sure.
The only warning comes from somebody that's currently seeking, and they see that. And, but yeah, anybody with even a minor amount of discernment is going to see how just malicious the whole thing was,
Mhm.
and how absurd and obscene on the face. And
Mhm.
then,
Typical. It's typical
but these God
of the
puts these
world.
tragedies in your life to refine you
Mhm.
and to reveal to you that, yeah, I am enough and I am sufficient and I will provide. And you know what? Yeah, maybe maybe you have lots of savings, your treasure is going to fail you. Maybe you have good health, your health is going to fail you. Maybe you have, you think of Job, what happened with his family. I mean, his family was vaporized, right? All of these things can go away, and God has every right to take these things away. um but God, as a gracious loving father, he will restore, whether it's now or whether it's in the future. He will do that for his child. And when we experience these tragedies, whether it's abuse or whatever, that's the other thing. A lot of people want to blame their experiences at different quote unquote churches, and we won't get into the definition of a church or anything like that. But they want to blame these different experiences. Well, that's why I don't go to a building anymore, because these people did this to me. Well, who's in control of everything? Did God miss the memo that those people did that to you? Does God not know that those people did that to you?
Mhm.
And that's your excuse on why you don't go to a building anymore.
Well, and there's certain systems on the flip side that are set up to be predator pits. And,
Yeah.
ATI is one of them.
Yeah.
And that
1,000,000%.
that system and a lot of different bigger type churches where you have age segregated
Yeah. Yeah.
classes
1,000,000%. Yeah.
and you're in Christian schools and all that, that is set up to be a predator pit. So
Yeah.
we put protections in place, right? We're not saying throw caution to the wind, God's in
No,
control.
absolutely not.
You're just keep going and putting all your kids and all of the little classes and
No, I
nurseries.
categorically reject, and
No,
we
of
talked
course
all
not.
about
You
all of that on the
Yeah.
well, we talked all on that on, what to look for when looking for a church. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We
So
talked about all that
you
stuff.
use precaution, right? You learn from your experiences of, wow, this seems to happen in every single church we go to. So, let's put some safety measures in place here. Um yeah, I'm sorry. I stole your thunder there.
It's okay. I like it when you interrupt me. So, I just wanted to review that article, go over that. And,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and I mean, I think it's the closing of his article, and what was so incredible is what he's saying is that we need to recognize that the people who are going to come after Christians in this postmodern new world order, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
are going to be professing Christians.
Mhm.
That's who killed Christ, professing
Mhm.
Christians. That's who killed the apostles, right?
Mhm.
Professing Christians. It wasn't the pagans.
No.
Some of it was the pagans, but it was a lot of it was, the Judaizers and all that stuff. And, and it's coming, and it's not going to be the pink haired atheist.
Mhm.
I mean, it might be, but it's definitely going to be all these fake FEMA mega people,
Mhm.
the mega flip floppers,
Yeah.
and the slick Rick Warrens and all all these cats.
Right.
I
Well, the
mean,
litmus test happened back in 2020, and you can just see how the churches responded and based on that. And
yeah,
whatever the response was then shows you a little prelude to
yeah.
how they're going to, march step.
All the pharmaceutical pimp pastors,
Yeah.
that told you about the droplets. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just heard that in Canada now, I have to choose my words so carefully.
Oh, it's so great.
It's so horrible. So yeah, I was just thinking. So anyway, in Canada now, in the public government camps, schools,
Hmm.
you cannot keep your child home if there's going to be certain days promoting and pushing certain um, ideologies that are anti-biblical in
Like
nature,
PDF stuff.
like all of it, like everything, anything under the rainbow.
Hmm.
um, on those days that they're really, really pushing it and having like big whatever get-togethers at the school and everything, it's no longer that you can keep your child home. It is mandatory because it's human rights
Well, if you're still
violation.
sending your kid
I
to
know.
government camp,
I said the
you
same
got
thing.
rocks in your
I said
heads.
I read it and I was thinking, if you think they're only pushing that stuff on these certain days, like, and you can like keep your child back, that's like thinking that they're only going to push like the sexual agendas
Yeah.
on the sex education days. Like, guess what, y'all? Every day at public school is sex education day.
Oh,
Like, you're not
it
going to
was
be able to keep your
so,
child home.
dude, the school bus ride, it was so gross, y'all. And that was like 30 years ago. Ultra
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Ultra
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah. Or it'd be like, I don't want my child taught evolution. So on the day the biology teacher is teaching evolution, I will keep him home. That might have worked in like 1950, but like
Yeah,
that doesn't work
exactly.
today. Like every textbook, all of it, they probably don't even have textbooks anymore. All of the stuff is evolution. The whole
Well, yeah, and
ideology.
microbiology is repackaged eugenics,
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
So anyway,
anywho,
that is
that's all for now. I think we said it as straight as we can say it,
yeah, the
and
attack was on you, Christians, us Christians.
integrate.
And, we're not shocked.
No,
It's Amazon. I
no,
mean, of course the attack was on us. Have you been on the homepage of Amazon lately? I mean,
I haven't.
it's
It's great.
atrocious.
Yeah,
Atrocious. I mean, yeah, I I try to avoid it like the plague, just like, yeah, but it's coming. It's coming.
it's coming like a tidal wave.
It's coming everywhere. It's the way that it is.
Yeah,
Got to get ready, y'all.
get ready to get ready.
Get ready.
All right, y'all. Well, y'all have a great night. Thanks for coming on and hanging out. And we'll see. We'll see how many videos we end up going up. I think the main channel should arbitrarily be back online tomorrow for some arbitrary unknown reason, because that's the way it works. But that's the way I think.
As
It
long as
may
we
or may
don't
not
talk
work.
about prayer
Yeah, just don't talk about prayer
and home remedies
Yeah, prayer, home remedies, and like
or anything against science.
demonic Republican homeschoolers.
Anything against science.
All right, y'all. See you on the next video.
Good night, guys.
Night.